And with that, let me introduce Daniel Kotsut, who is a consultant with Codecentric and going to talk about the role of data and APIs in the digital product passport. Daniel.
Thanks, Mike. I'm just taking over. So just 2 sentences about myself. I'm the head of API consulting at Codecentric, so nothing to do with printing, but I have a history. So some people might know me. I had a different surname in the past, but I have a background here with print and work to related stuff. So there is the connection between. So thinking about this new thing called digital product passport and what might this be? So topics to talk about today is really what is this digital product passport, the role of data in it, APIs and operability, so the things I'm actually doing all the time in regards of data, also thinking about data security and privacy, and then make an addition to data spaces. Maybe some of you heard about data spaces because it's not really new, because it's already there, it's coming with Gaia X, but it's really related to this digital product passport. So, digital product passport. It's a somehow big term, but it's somehow a look into the future. This is something that will happen in the future for some products and goods already available. It might be near future, but it is a future act, actually. And the digital product passport means to have a digital identity for products. So I can really rely on them and have a detailed view of the product origin, composition, environmental footprint, and recyclability, actually, to make it more obvious to people what is in the product, how is the product created, and what are footprints actually in regards of environment and recyclability. So the key objectives of this DPP, so I'm using the abbreviation all the time now, is really to think about sustainability, transparency, and compliance. But some people really look at it and say, okay, it's all about compliance. We are forced to do this, we have to do this, but in the end it's also in regards of thinking in case of sustainability and transparency to make it more easy for people to understand and get clear insights actually, where is the product coming from? What is the real background to make things more obvious? Somehow it's a little bit compliant, but not that hard. So we have an impact on the stakeholders there. So we have providers and consumers. And the providers are required to integrate this DPP to ensure the transparent and responsible supply chains, actually. And we have the consumers on the other side who gain access to critical information and can be sure that the product aligns with ethical and environmental standards, actually. So to really know where are the trousers are coming from and not have an idea, oh, there might be children involved or something like that, so it will be more and more transparent to see what is really happening there. And that's actually a good point. For some people it might be hard because it's all about data. So we have a lot of more data actually available, so really have to think about the role of data into this digital product passport, because this is something we are all coming from actually. So what we need to do is actually think about data standardization to really make sure that information related to the product, such as material composition, carbon footprint, is constantly structured so that we are really aware of what is happening there. And the DPP really requires uniform data formats to make it easy to communicate about the things actually in regards of the product. And to really make sure that we can do compliance reports and be able to validate the sustainability claims. So the key standardization areas we really have to think about is product data. There might be a change, so we really have to think about the data models for the products actually. Then we have to add something called environmental data that might not be available at the moment, but it will become available. And we need somehow some compliance data. All of this leads to a comprehensive data collection so that we are able to build this data product passport. That's a lot, actually. Because at the first moment, it sounds quite easy because product data might be available. The data quality might be also good, hopefully. And we add some data that might come from somewhere else. The problem is, it's all about life cycle data. Because the product has a life cycle. So the data might change over the life cycle, again and again and again. So it's not that easy to say, oh, we have product data, we have it somewhere stored, we add something and we add something again because we have to. No, it's really about having data in or coming from a life cycle. So we need to know that we have data points from product composition, we need sustainability matrix, and we need to think about the topic of repair and maintenance. And that is, or will be actually now a problem, because a lot of people don't really know where they are. So we don't know about anything about maintenance because the data is not stored actually. So we really don't get this footprint actually available. Also in regards of sustainability matrix, because it's still something to grow, how to really think about this stuff. And to give some kind of an example, it's actually to look at smartphones. How could a DPP look like for a smartphone? Because it's quite interesting to see what is the percentage of recycled data used in the construction. Because the data should be recycled or used. We should use recycled data and not have something new. And also really think about the carbon footprint. And we need to have an idea how to recycle the whole components of the smartphone. So a lot of new data actually will be available. Because when we have to think about how to deconstruct this little thing, because when we do a transfer of data from one smartphone to another actually, the old one might get buried. So we really have to think about how to access the data. And the biggest problem is, in the end, ensuring data quality. We have life cycle data, so we have really live data running through all the time to really be aware what is really happening with the product. And when we look at what we are here for, so thinking about marketing and all the stuff involved, we need somehow a centralized data repository. From me, coming from a consultancy where we actually really talk with people about how to build individual software components, we don't speak about PIM. For us, on the consultancy side, PIM is just a back-end system. So when we really think about it, it's really about having a centralized data repository. To make it quite clear, it will be the PIM. And with using a PIM in the DPP, it's really about talking about data governance. A real interesting topic, because everybody has its own understanding of data governance. So it's really think about, okay, are the data points accurate? Are they up to date? Are they compliant with data industry standards actually? And then the most important fact is seamless integration. Funny enough, Horst talked about the integration side today. How to be integrative with other tooling and other parts of the system. And this is really one point to really rely on the DPP. Because the data will come from outside of the company. because we are not really able to collect all the data in regards of repair, maintenance, or whatever will be there. The benefit of having all this data is that we get more transparent, we get a lot of traceability, and we force sustainability. So we can tell all the time how sustainable our products actually are. That's just the data side. How to get there is quite easy, because this is my and the daily teamwork of the team I'm working with. So we're talking about APIs and interoperability. And APIs in the context of this digital product passport is really to think about where to put it to get the seamless communication and data exchange actually available, and to really think about the key function of APIs, because we will get data from diverse sources. Maybe something we don't know already, because there's a new service running somewhere in the cloud, and we can use the data from there and get into touch of real-time interoperability across all systems we actually have and share. And that's one of the things, actually, interoperability as the foundation there, to really be collaborative, to really make sure by standardizing how data is transmitted, to really enable different systems to talk to each other. So not to really think about, oh, I have to build this on my own and I have to be very integrative. Just thinking about easy steps to really make the first process there. Because what is needed is really the real-time access to really make sure that all the data about product materials, the lifestyle stages, environmental impact, and so on is really available and accessible. The most important thing. Not only inside the company, but also at some level outside the company. This leads actually to some use cases where we need APIs in the ecosystem of the digital product passport. We need somehow transparency in the supply chain to be really aware what is happening around us, what is happening with the products. We also have to think about the integration of IoT. So if we have sensors available for the products we use, we should get the data from the sensors. Not just say, yeah, we have sensors there. It's not really working. We have an idea how to use it. You should integrate the stuff there. Because in the end, the third use case is the circular economy. Because we need to be able in the future to really be actors in the supply chain in regards of this circular economy, so that we know at every point what is happening with the product, following the following ID or anything like that, to really make sure that everything is available. Technical implementations in this space, we could take something like RESTful APIs and having a transform format like JSON available there, but this is just one side of the topic, because when we look into the integration of IoT, this is really real time, so nothing in regards of having a RESTful API or something else available. It's more important actually to think about security protocols, to really be sure that everything we do is secure. Because in the end, we have or might have sensitive product and business data, and we should not being accessed by anybody else who shouldn't access this data. When we look now at the challenges and solutions, it might become more clear where we are actually going. One of the challenges is really to make sure that we have standardized data formats. So really be sure that we use data formats that are capable across industries and not really relying to specific industries there. Maybe thinking about common protocols and data standards like ISO or something else, to be sure that we have a consistent data flow. And maybe, or we should not maybe, we should ensure that regulatory compliance is really capable on that. Another challenge is the enormous volume of data now available, because it's just not the normal or standard product data, it's more, it's this product lifecycle data which is now available, which makes it really more difficult to really manage this data associated to the product lifecycle and really integrate it in different platforms. This will become the biggest challenge. Because when you have more data, you have to be more in charge of really control who is accessing the stuff. So in the end, there should be APIs available to really ensure that this large data sets can be processed efficiently while providing really these real-time updates to stakeholders that are really involved into that. So when we look at this API-driven operability benefits, it's really about improved efficiency, enhanced compliance, and empowering consumers and stakeholders.
I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
It feels like one other layer to this is the channel where the data is displayed. I mean, one of the purposes of having standardized data is being able to display it on whatever surface. To what extent is that captured or planned for? And we do know, because we're here at a print conference, increasingly the priorities are usually on the digital channels first. So now you get this all done and you go, I want to print it. So how much does that factor into your planning, the channel and then particularly print?
It really relies on what I would really present to the audience actually I have.
Yep.
So if this data is relevant for the audience, I should print it or put it into the specific channel. But it's really in the end thinking about what is really needed, because in the end it's still data minimization all the time, because I don't want to push everything into the channels. So really think about what is really needed there. And as there are still standards not really quite clear, because the dates are going further and further and further, and I think we now at 2030 at the moment. It was planned for 2026 or 2027 to get a bigger rollout. Actually, now it's changing again and again. So there is a lot of conversations around, and this is something to really cover, because in the end, the data might become available, because thinking about where we have it, the circular economy applications, it's really something that has to evolve now, because there is nothing really available at the moment. There are some initiatives somewhere running around, but there is no clear understanding how to really get the data and how to make it actually available, because in the end it's about costs when I have to access the data. And the second point then is to really think about, should I give this back to the consumers who are buying the products, because I have to buy data in for them to really make sure what is the state of the product actually, and so on and so on. So it's quite difficult at the moment.
About the data coming from the whole supply chain, you have to gather the data. How can you be sure that this data is correct and valid?
That's always the biggest question around, because Horst said it already today. It's about data quality, which is still not solved. One of the biggest problems around. I'm working with enterprise companies, around 30,000 employees in Germany, and it's not solved. People are running into something called ontologies and semantics and all the things around, but it's not solved. Because I cannot still rely if the data available is really correct.
And not change during.
Yeah. This is a problem we had with a customer actually on the retail side. A funny thing about it, maybe I can tell you something about it. it was actually, we came into the scene and were asked that the customer had a specific problem because there was a cascading usage of APIs. And we thought, oh, it looks like they need a portal or something like that. The problem was observability. Because they had a cascading chain of a usage of 5 different suppliers in the end, and they all saved the data wrong. And it was a typical use case because, as I were being in print in my former years, actually, it was about storing the brand ID or the brand name. And the APIs were not really capable of what is the right decision to do. And what the consumers did was storing the name. Problem when the name is changing. And this is one of the biggest problem with this digital data passport that is coming, because nobody is really looking at it. And nobody is really aware of paying money for that. Yeah, we're doing API initiatives since nearly 5 years with customers. And the biggest problem is data. It's not about getting the people into the position of using interfaces. It's really about how is the quality of the data. And this is one of the biggest and will be one of the biggest problems around here. And if you get more and more data from different sources, it gets obvious in the end. And it's not really solved. There are some tools maybe available for observability, but in the end, if you don't know who is using your data or who is involved in getting information in your data, it's quite difficult actually. So nothing to really solve at the moment.
Question.
Yeah, you knew I would probably have a question.
Yeah.
The one thing that I find difficult about the whole thing is that everybody working in the field at the moment, which is many PIM vendors, but also people like yourself, or we at Lauda too, we are aiming at a moving target. So how optimistic or pessimistic are you that the actual legislation, when it is coming out at some point, because it isn't, it's still a moving target, how optimistic or pessimistic are you that the solutions that everyone is building today will or will not comply to what then the legislation actually demands with respect to data structures, data availability, APIs? What's your gut feeling?
Actually a bad one. A really bad one. Because we're talking about things that should be already done. But they aren't. When I talk with people actually in the field talking about master data management, it's a problem for 40 years or longer, it's not solved. The first decision, this is what I learned at WAC 2 and Print actually, was to get into PIMs. Yeah, but it's not actually not a solution, it's a tooling again. So it's really about thinking, I am the owner of the data and I should know best how it should look like. And that's why people are running into this semantics and ontology thing at the moment, which I can really laugh about because I did it in university in 2005, where everybody was thinking, oh, what are you doing there? Why are you looking at this? This is bullshit. Nobody will really care about that. And now we have, nearly 20 years later, everybody is running into semantics and all the stuff around ontologies, and you think, I have to get my books back from university, but I actually dropped them. But in the end, it's really funny to see what is happening in the field. So another solution actually around.
Yeah, I was visiting the DEM Europe this July, I think, and ontologies and topologies and everything were the main thing, and we probably agree that the standardization thing should have been solved decades ago.
Yeah, it's actually really thinking about this is why so many initiatives looking into something like Gaia X or anything around in this segment, which is also not really solving the cases actually. So it's bringing in something else. It's like talking about data spaces. Yeah, it's something actually needed, but nobody can really be clear what will it mean in 5 or even 10 years, because it's just there for now. And in the end, and that's the fun fact, when you look at LinkedIn at these days, everybody is talking about no AI without APIs. Yeah, this is this another bullshit talking thing, because in the end, the real sentence should be, there is no AI without architecture and data, and not just bringing in something which has three letters, and nobody really knows what APIs really mean. This is why I talk a lot about interfaces at the moment, because I'm really embarrassed about the term. But that's something, when you are 7 years in a topic, it's quite hard not to be harsh against something like this. And in the end, it's about the typical things: architecture, data, interfaces, and this is the part we have now, it's actually security. Because when we look at the key challenges, it's really about the sensitive product data, supply chain exposure, and regulatory compliance. So it's security. Something we know for even 20 or 25 years. It's nothing new, but it's still very hard for a lot of people, because I have to think about data encryption, I have to think about authentication, access control. And to be honest, a lot of data is open in the field where people don't really know that it's open. A colleague of mine had a pre-sales call 3 weeks or something ago. I think I was on holiday. And she came back and said, we talked about data exposure. And the potential customer said, oh, we don't have anything, it's open. Everybody can access it who knows the endpoints. So there was no security, there was no technology to really obtain security. If you would know how to access the endpoints, when you know all the things around, you could get data from a manufacturer, because it was something in the automotive industry, which is quite obvious, because it's a normal thing there. And the really important thing is to really think about these decentralized data models, because this is in the end what data spaces mean. Yeah, I decentralize my data to give a broader audience an access to it, a secured access, hopefully. So really thinking about, when we go into best practices for API security, in that case, is really thinking about securing API endpoints. This is something we can talk there for years, actually, because it's not really happening. And really think about regular audits and monitorings, because this is also what we see. Even if we work with bigger enterprise companies, they are lacking monitoring. I don't know who is using my API. Oh, somebody is using my API. They shouldn't use my API because it's not actually available. Oh, where did they find it? Yeah, some people just look around and find things. So it's really about that. And when we go into the data space topic, which is something coming from this university context, because Fraunhofer is doing a lot of stuff there, me being at Dortmund actually with the branch of codecentric, we see it a lot, because we have conversations with people in the field talking about these data spaces. And in the end, it's a really, what I mentioned before, the secure platform, where people are able to share data, and hopefully nobody accesses it, because in the end, it's about, again, collaboration, and hopefully standardization and governance. But this is not coming with using a data space. It has to come with the people involved in the data space, because this is the most important fact. It's, again, about people. And this is, what we are lacking. When we talk about stuff, it's always about tools. It's always about governance, standardization, whatever, and nobody talks about people involved. And when you have people involved, it's sometimes quite interesting, because they have a different understanding of how things should be standardized, how things should be governed, even if you have a standard around. So when we talk about data sovereignty, another interesting aspect comes into place: data ownership. Yeah, knowing who is the owner of the data. It's funny doing this in companies. I can tell you. It's really funny. Somebody wants to access an API. Find the data owner. Ah, you're not the data owner. Ah, you want to. This is also something we discover a lot, that people come up and say, ah, yeah, we want to use that data. Or we want to bring up the data, and the first question is, are you the owner of the data? Oh, no, we aren't. Oh, then you shouldn't be the person who is in charge of bringing this data to somebody else. Find the data owner. So it's really about getting people into the position of feeling themselves as owner of something. And not to say, oh yeah, we want to have it and we need it. Because there is something we should do in the company. Somebody was golfing with somebody who told them, oh, you should use interfaces to get your data accessed. Now we have this initiative, but we don't have a clue who is the owner of the data which is involved. And this happens a lot actually when you are going into SAP stuff related in companies. And this is also something codecentric is doing. We train so-called ABAP developers how to create APIs in the world of SAP. Fun fact, we are not an SAP partner company, but we know now how to do this, because it's of standardization and governance in the field of SAP quite easy to do things. So when we go back into the data space again, it's really bringing enhanced traceability into the place, interoperability, and a new spot, scalability. Because when we share the data with our own environments, or through our own environments, it's quite hard to think about scalability. Because this is something quite hard for a lot of people, because I have to know how cloud is working, how my infrastructure is working, and having something maybe that's available and I can use it, it may be easier. And when we look at real-world applications at the moment, is really about cross-industry collaboration. So what we find in the automotive sector with electronics or the construction builders. And one of the projects to really think about is Gaia X. Anyone here in this room who doesn't know anything about Gaia X? That's good. Ah, okay. It's a key initiative actually to make data available in the European sectors. It's not really to bring something or to be more aware of really something. It's just really about being able to really share data across industries in Europe. It's not related to the US or something like that because of the European Data Act and anything involved in there. It's another battlefield. Not easy to really gather the things around. So it's something happening already at companies. So we work in the chemical industry, we work in the automotive industry, and everybody's talking there about Gaia X or special other things that might be important for the industries there because it's all related to that. And in the end, that's where the digital data product passport is actually coming from. Because it's the idea of having something standardized. So when we look at the data space as a catalyst for the success of the data product passport, it's really about enable people to share data, to really be aware of collaboration, traceability, data privacy, and so on and so on and so on. So these data spaces will be the key player in there. Whatever that means. There are some players, vendors actually now in the market providing this, But in the end, it's a secure space to store data, actually, and make others access it when they have a connector or anything like that available, actually. Coming to a summary of all that, the digital product passport will be the foundation of sustainable business practices. So everybody is talking about sustainability. I develop sustainable, I create products sustainable, and this is actually the starting point. Because in the end, I need standardized data and standardized interfaces to make people aware of what I'm actually doing in the field. In the end, I have to be open because I'm enhancing the compliance and trust by using the DPP. To do this, I must be aware of data security in all privacy. That is really needed. So in the end, when we go through it, it's really about building digital products based on data. That's the point behind that. Having a digital product based on data. It could be accessed by an interface or not, but in the end, it's really about having this digital product available. And hopefully, the digital product brings value to the whole life cycle, actually. So, to have it in a short sentence, the digital product passport empowers transparency, sustainability, and innovation. That's the only thing why it will be there. And hopefully it will be used in that way and not in somewhat differently. And to be honest, this is just hopefully not a promise, but it will become a key tool. So you should have it on your mind, actually, when you think about data and all the stuff involved there. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.